Hey guys, it's Hannah and I'm here today with my May wrap-up and my June TBR. So I had quite a good reading month for my May month, so let's get on into it. So I did have like a bit of a different weird collection for this month. So I've got a little bit of adult, I have a little bit of YA, and I have a little bit of graphic novel / comic books. So we're going to start off with the comic books. First off, I read Squirrel Girl Volume 2, Squirrel You Know It's True, and this is adorable. If you guys haven't picked this up, you are missing out because it is so adorable. It features other Marvel characters in this, which I love crossovers in the comic books. And in this, she is a girl who has the might of a squirrel and can take on all of these like super badass action heroes and like doesn't break a sweat, and she's super cool. She controls a bunch of squirrels, and she also like doesn't want to fight everybody. She wants to be able to like talk it out with people, and I love this. It's just a really good, like, wholesome, good fun. And they has Deadpool's Guide to Villains cards in here, and it also, what I really love is in between different series or different issues, I mean, it has like almost like a Twitter style, let me see if I can find one, Twitter style page, and it has her interacting with other Marvel characters. Here we go. So it's Squirrel Girl in a nutshell. It's got like trending hashtags, and it's got like here she's interacting with her little squirrel friend Tippy Toe and her best friend that she's rooming with, and Tony Stark, and it's just like funny and cute, and it's like just a really good graphic novel. I rated this at 5 out of 5 stars. I highly recommend checking these out. Next up on my list that I picked up this month was Chew Volume 12. This is the Sour Grapes, and this is the last one in the series, and it makes me so sad that the series is finally done because it is so good. If you guys don't know, if you haven't been on my channel recently, haven't heard me talk your ear off about Chew, go check it out. It is about a steviopath named Tony Chew who he can taste where origins are from, such as he like eats food and he can tell where like how it was raised, or in this case he chews on dead bodies and finds out what happened to them. So he works with the FDA, and there is that plot in the story, but there's also a plot about chickens being doomed, and chickens are illegal to consume in this world, and it's just like such a cool, unique world. I highly recommend checking this out. I did rate this one a 3.5 out of 5 stars, but that's only because the ending was really weird and it wasn't quite what I was hoping for. This has always been like a 5 out of 5 star series for me, and this one just fell a little flat, and which was really awful because you don't want the ending to be bad. And it wasn't bad, it just ended a little weird if you read this series. And if you read the last one especially, you know like a good chunk of it is not, it's just odd. So, but I still really recommend checking out the series if you haven't. Next up, I picked up The Winner's Curse by Marie Rutowski. This is the first one in this series of the Winner's Trilogy, and this was actually really phenomenal. I wasn't expecting to like it as much. I rated it a 4 out of 5 stars. I did kind of notch it because of the predictability. It is very predictable, but what I really love about this is the strategic mindset in this, and like the political aspects all entwined in this, and it is so good, and I'm so excited to continue on with the series. If you guys don't know, it is about a girl who is a general's daughter, and she and her people came and invaded in this area and kind of like took over the people who have already lived there, and they kind of made them slaves. So they are controlling this land and controlling everything that what used to be like their oppressees, right? Because they're the oppressors and they're oppressing people. Anyway, you guys know what I'm talking about. But so it took me a little bit to get into the whole like slave thing, and I wasn't like super loving reading about that, but once I like pushed through, I really liked this book. There is a love relationship aspect in this that I'm still not sure if I'm completely on board for. I think it's an interesting twist, but I think it's kind of predictable as well in these types of stories. So I'm not quite sure how I feel about it, but I am continuing reading on with this series, and I'm excited for the political aspect of it. If you guys know any recommendations for me for political aspect books, like I love it. Like, you don't want to read a book that you like absolutely devour because you read through it so fast and it like you almost get on a book high. That's me with political mindset books. Is it's so fascinating to me, like the different tiptoe games and like doing the political minefields and stuff. So if you have any recommendations, please let me know down below. Next up for the month of May, I finally picked up Mistborn by Brandon Sanderson. I have been highly intimidated by this book for some time now. This is one of Trevor's favorites, so he's been pestering me to read this for so long, and I put it off for so long because there's such a hype on here on BookTube and on Goodreads and everywhere basically that this is like phenomenal. So I was super intimidated by it. It is kind of a chunky book. I think it's like 600 pages. Yeah, it's over 600 pages. So it intimidated me, to say the least. So I went into this with really high expectations, and I mean, it wasn't necessarily let down, but I didn't love it as much as I thought it was going to. I rated this a 3.75 out of 5, or like somewhere between a 3.75 and a 4 out of 5 stars because of the hype. There was nothing wrong with it, but I just didn't love it as much as everybody else loved it, so I was comparing it to that. I haven't decided if I am continuing on with this series. I want to still give it a chance because I think that I ruined it for myself. I don't think it was the book's fault, but we will find out if I will finish on with the rest of the series and when I think about it. Mistborn, if you guys haven't heard, is all about... I never knew that it was like a sort of heist story, so I am putting that out there in the universe. Because every time I heard someone describe this, no one said the word heist, and once I realized that it was kind of a heist story, I was way more into it than I thought I was. This book is about a group of characters coming together, and they are sort of pulling off this heist slash task that I'm trying not to give anything away. And they are working together, and they all have different magical powers because they all ingest metals. That's what this entire story is about. So if you ingest a certain metal by like swallowing it, you can burn it within your body and it releases these magical powers, sort of. And if you can burn more than one metal, you are therefore known as a Mistborn. So that whole concept was so hard for me to understand. That's another reason why I did dock it a little bit, is because I do tend to fit more into the YA category. I don't really go for the high fantasy books, so this did take me a little bit to get into. What I did is I listened to the audiobook along with following along with my e-reader, and I really loved it so much more doing it that way because I could listen to it, and the listening to it made it easier to read and get through, and if I was like starting to lose what was going on, I could follow along while I was listening to it, and it worked out great. I mean, I ended up finishing it within like 3 days, so I mean, it was a fast read for me, but I don't think it would be that fast if I wasn't doing both those things. So if you are having trouble getting into this really hyped up story, try that, see if it works. And last but not least, in the month of May, I read Always and Forever Laura Jean by Jenny Han. This is the third book in the series To All the Boys I Loved Before, so I don't want to give too much away, but To All the Boys I Loved Before is a story about a girl who writes all these love letters out to her past loves, and she like gets all of her feelings out and then seals them and puts them in her hat box, and her little sister finds them and decides to send them out because she thought they were letters. So now Laura Jean is dealing with the aftermath of everybody receiving those letters, and she gets into a fake relationship to hide the feelings of who she really does still love in that letter box. And so that is where we start off in book 1. This is book 3, and I rated this a 3.75 out of 5 stars. I liked the ending, although the overall book tone was kind of sad. You could tell that Jenny Han was sad reading it because it felt like an ending. It felt like very final, and it was kind of sad, like, because it's her senior year, and like, I'm really bad with that when I read books and they give off like a sadness to them. I adapt that when I'm reading them, so it affects my moods. So like that like made me not like it as much because it made me sad when I was reading it. This is a really fast read though, so you don't have to worry about that too much. But in this book, the person who Laura Jean is with, I am not a fan of. I've never been a fan of him. I don't ship them. I don't understand if you have read the series, you know that there is the person who she's with in this one, and then there is that second person. I've always shipped her with the other person. So I was kind of like pushing myself through this series because she is with him, and I'm not a big fan of him, so that always like leaves a bad taste in my mouth, because they don't seem like they would work together, and it's weird, and I don't understand the relationship. But I will say that I did secure the 3.75 out of 5 stars instead of 3.5 stars because the ending was so darn cute, and I like got sucked into that. So yeah, that is my review on Always and Forever, Laura Jean. If you guys haven't checked it out, it's a great contemporary fast read. So those are all of my books that I read for May, and now we are going to get into my books for June. So the first book that I'm picking up this month that I've already started a few pages in is The Winter's Crime. It's the second one in the Winter's Curse trilogy by Marie Rutowski, and I'm excited to get into this because I think the predicament that they are now in the second book is going to be way more interesting than the setup for book 1. So I'm excited to get into this. I really enjoyed book 1 because of the political mindset, so I'm excited to see a lot more of that in this. Second one I'm definitely picking up this month is going to be Squirrel Girl Volume 3. I have fallen in love with this series, and I'm like, it just makes me so happy reading it. So this is Squirrel, You Really Got Me Now. By the way, I love that there's like song titles on these. Or like punny titles, and it looks like this has a crossover of Avengers. It's got some weird Hulk dude, and it kind of looks like Rogue in this, and so I'm excited to see where this is going to take me. I love crossovers, I love Squirrel Girl, it's good, clean fun. I'm excited to pick this one up because it like just makes me happy reading it. Next one on my list that I am picking up, I'm so excited to be rereading this with Gabby over Gabs About Books, and that is the Selection series by Kira Cass. I do have review videos on these, so if you haven't checked those out, go check them out on my review playlist. But this is such a fun, nostalgic series for me. This is what really got me back into reading because I have always loved to read my entire life, but I have never been this much into reading. And I found this, and I don't even know what made me pick it up, to be honest. And I remember it was January, and I picked it up and I was like, okay, and then I picked up this one and I flew through it within like a day. So I picked up the rest of them and I finished the entire 3 books in probably, I think, 2.5 days. I forgot how much I loved reading and how fun it was to fly through a book and be completely, totally enveloped in it. So this is a good nostalgic for me. I'm excited to see this series in Gabby's mind and see her experience it for the first time. I've been pestering her to pick it up. She's been on the fence about it, so I commented on one of her videos saying, if you read it, I will reread it, or we'll buddy read it with you. And so she's like, okay, let's do it. So I'm excited to pick this one up for the month of April. No. June. Wow, I'm like way back. And these next 2 books I'm not positive I'm gonna pick up. I'm kind of seeing where my mood is after I finish those. So I figured it's summertime and I am kind of getting into my cravings of fluffy contemporaries. And surprisingly, I have never picked up a Morgan Matson book. So I'm picking up Since You've Been Gone by Morgan Matson. I've heard a lot of hype about Morgan Matson and how amazing her contemporaries are. People even do like Month of Matson here on BookTube, which I think is fun that they're like honoring certain authors. So this is about a girl who I think gets a letter from her best friend, and she almost challenges her best friend to step outside of her comfort zone and try new things and push her to the limit and step out of her shell, and she wants her to be the most that she can be. And I totally relate to the protagonist in this because I am an antisocial person. I tend to like my bubble and stay in it, so I think this will be a good read for me, and maybe it will push me outside my comfort zone. And the last book that I might pick up, depending on how my reading goes this month, is The Well of Ascension. This is the second one in the Brandon Sanderson Mistborn series. And I think that I'm going to like this one a lot better than I liked Mistborn because there's not as much hype following this specific book as Mistborn. It's usually just the whole series. So I'm excited to pick this one up. I think now that we're going to get into the second one that I will like it more. There is a character that is gonna throw, like, not having a certain character in this will throw it off. But I'm kind of wondering how that's going to all come about. But I have my favorite character still in here, which is Ellen. So I'm excited to see how their whole thing goes. If you read it, you know what I'm talking about. So yes, I might be picking this one up in June. So those are all of my books for my May wrap-up and my June TBR. Let me know down below about the political mindset books. I would love some recommendations down below. And let me know what you're reading for the month of June. Are you reading more contemporaries, or is this when you dive into fantasy because you can fully focus on it? Let me know down below, and I will talk to you in my next video. Thank you guys for watching. Bye!